Hey everybody, Ron here. I wanted to cover the last two gaming sessions that I've had. This will be the first edited video to my YouTube site in a few weeks. We played some D&D today, and we played also 2 weeks ago. We seem to be playing every 2 weeks, even though this is supposed to be a weekly game. As a matter of fact, this is the 31st session of D&D that I've run in this campaign, and I think this game's been going about 48 weeks, 49 weeks. So about a 60% average. But there you have it. This is why I run a weekly game. Because if I didn't run a weekly game, if I ran every other week, then it would be even worse, and then people would just forget everything. But that's beside the point. So 2 weeks ago, I ran a session. I introduced a new character. If you remember from the time previous, they were in Sharn. I thought that they were going to stay in Sharn, but they said, no, let's go over here to where this attack happened in southeast of Eberron. So they traveled there. They picked up NPC Gavin Deneth, a Sentinel Marshal, and they traveled to Overbend, this town that was overrun by the forces of the Lord of Blades. And they had a couple of encounters there, nothing significant, just to really get them in the situation and get them going and try to build up to something. But and really giving an opportunity to introduce the new character. The new character is Patron. He is a black dragonborn Order of the Ancients paladin. He's rather stubborn and rigid. He came in with the knowledge of the party, knowing that the party had something to do with the Tooth of Avrak, and he thought the party had the Tooth of Avrak, and it turns out that they don't. But he came in pretty stubborn, and Septimus put him in his place. And Septimus is a player who, I guess, he just likes to compete. He just likes being antagonistic. Just cast a spell on him to hurt the Dragonborn, and that was a little kerfuffle out of character. But I think that once we talked about things and everybody got on the same page, things are good. The character Patron was coming in, just being stubborn, and the whole goal was for him to grow as a character and to grow to trust the PCs. After all, they did do good things for the Gatekeeper Druids. After all, so that kind of worked itself out after the first session. Today's session continued in Overbend. They continued to work their way through the village. I call it a village. It really is more of a town. A small town than a village, but they ended up in a big fight that was led by some Warforged commanders, and their big muscle was a Warforged fighter. Warforged Titan, a huge thing, hulking thing. I wish I had a mini for it. I don't. We used a cadaver collector, which isn't quite the size, but we put something under the base so the base could take up a proper space. So there was a big fight, the Titan, Warforged Titan, bunch of Warforged, regular Warforged soldiers, a couple of little scout type Warforged that I didn't quite make up. They were a small size Warforged in 3rd edition, Eberron. I decided to make something like that. And I actually reskinned a couple of creatures to give them some special abilities, and that worked out pretty cool. It was a great dynamic fight where the players had some time to set up for this oncoming wave, and they basically funneled them in and cast some magic on the Titan that made it hurt itself, and so which was good for them because it ended up the most damage to itself. To knock that out. So they end up finishing that group of Warforged off, and then off in the distance, Lassus Brummel pops his head up, just so that they can see him far enough away to be out of the range of most magics, but close enough so that they can see him, because he was trying to draw them in, and that certainly worked. And of course, Marv's war buddy. It turns out that Marv is a she. Recognized him. And so did Septimus, because he tried to kill Septimus. Because the Lord of Blades had a thing against Cannith people, and the Lord of Blades knows about Septimus. But anyway, I'll get to that in a moment. They know that they're kind of going into a trap. They rested up. They came up with a plan of action to split and kind of do the stealth thing, and that kind of worked. They split up, and there was a Warforged commander waiting outside of outside of a temple waiting for them. He shouted out, "Your capabilities have proven impressive, but now your journey is at an end, and you flashbacks will suffer the wrath of the Lord of Blades." And the players got a kick out of that. So the fight started. It was initiative. They had some scouts up on the roof, but Gavin, the NPC, spotted some. Septimus's retainer spotted some as well. So that didn't work out for the Warforged side too much. Buck, the kobold assassin, got in and did some damage to one of the Warforged juggernauts. It is at this point that Brummel shows up out of the shadows. He's an assassin. He does a lot of damage to Buck. All of a sudden, Brummel becomes a clear and present danger. Patron focuses his attacks on him. Buck focuses his attacks on Brummel, and next thing they take Brummel down. Also, meanwhile, the other characters in the party were taking on the other Warforged, and they made short work of the other Warforged. One of the neat things is that Septimus cast Phantasmal Force and totally fooled one of the commanders into believing that the Lord of Blades was there and calling them to stand down. So they stood down, and that was pretty much the combat. So they tied up Brummel. Discovered that he was ensorcelled. It was a gaze, and Septimus had removed curse, so they cast remove curse and removed the gaze. And at that point, Brummel apologized profusely about attacking and attempting to kill Septimus. He was not under his own control. You know how that goes with gaze. And he recognizes Marv, of course. And when the session ends, we set it up like they were going to sit in the campfire, and Marv and Brummel was going to catch up, and but also Brummel had made it clear that he had some sins to atone for, so he was going to leave. He's basically going to go to the bathroom round with Gavin, who found his friend in the village. So Gavin has to take care of his friend, so he's going back to the bathroom round, and Brummel's going to go with them, and that's how. And basically, those NPCs are going to leave the party, and the party will do whatever they're going to do. Speaking of which, I don't know what they're going to do. They could proceed into the Moorland. Septimus sounds like he's going to go back and get his Griffin Riders and try to muster up some other forces to actually bring a military force into the Moorland. We'll see how that works out. We're going to play in 2 weeks, and I'll find out then. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what direction it's going to go, so I'm going to have to prep a bit more than I normally do and see how things go. But we're getting to the end of the game, and I'm looking forward to that. Oh, speaking of Septimus, so I had this thing, right? Like, I threw this assassin at Septimus, and I didn't have, I was gonna tie him to Marv, which I did, and I didn't have a plan for him ultimately, but I think it would be cool that the Lord of Blades somehow knew about Septimus and his potential standing in Canada South. The Warforged, the Bladists, they don't like Canada House anyway. And Septimus being a House Scion that they've known about. Maybe that was something that someone they have particular animosity against. Maybe there was a prophecy. I think that's what I'm going to do is go with this, kind of making the Lord of Blades sort of a prophet, and him just kind of seeing Septimus in a vision, and just telling Septimus that Septimus isn't the only one that's burdened with knowledge, and doing something like that. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, that's it. This video has gone on long enough. I caught everybody up. Have a great week, everybody, and until next time, see you later.